And hello again, it is I, Samuel Alexander, poetry extraordinaire and line fumbler. Um, and that is me, that be me. Um, and I will be reading another poem. Um, now that you've gotten this far, plan A was to just read them and keep the shit rolling. But apparently, I have things to say before and after each poem. Maybe when I in the comments, I'll be like, if you don't want to listen to me talk and you dislike the sound of my voice, the poem starts here and ends here. But I don't know yet. So here we are. Here we are. Um, this one is here. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna have to read it because I feel like I'm right, but I don't want to land on that right now. But it fits because there's a moment because Dario has anxiety and he's prone to panic attacks, where he's with his music teacher and vocal coach. Lucky him to get both in one because it's not always that lucky. And he literally tells him to stop and breathe, which is the first sentence of this, because quiet and unsure is usually his mood, which is why he kind of makes a good singer because when he's on stage, it's just him. It didn't start out that way, but it morphed into that where he could forget everything and just be himself. That's when he's the most him when he opens his mouth. But before that, like there's times when his best friends have to literally walk him onto the stage. But once he actually gets going, if he can get past, the anxiety and the panic attack barrier, he's amazing. Um, and I feel like this poem speaks to that. It's called Silence. And you'll understand why I say that as as I read it. So without further ado, this poem is called, again, Silence. I have taken a moment to stop and breathe. Time to channel my inner peace. Take me to a place where my body can escape, where my mind can be free. A place where I can be calm and at ease. I am searching for silence. That empty place where old things grow, new ideas and some of old. Finding places within me full of knowledge even I didn't know I knew. So I'll empty myself and reassess, or empty myself just to revisit, to ensure my mind and soul are one. I must reach my silence and linger a while to let what needs to flow back in return unfiltered. But outside forces invade my silence. Noise in the form of violence and hate, jealousy and evil, backstabbers and liars, pretenders and disbelievers, all coming at me each day, each and every way, crowding my silence with their pollution, not allowing me to feed it with its own growth solution. I've removed all my noise. I've done my part. I've emptied my void so I could start the process of evaluating myself. But how can I do what I need when my silence is filled with invading activity? Silence is golden, but only if the world accepts your silence and lets it be. So for silence to be golden, we must destroy the noise. And to do that, we cannot be silent. Um, so yeah, Dario has to speak to his own truth. And when I started writing this, and this is what I mean about thinking a few lines ahead, as I got into it, it was supposed to be about silence and peace and meditation. But as I started to approach the middle of this poem, I realized that wasn't going to work. Um, it it just wasn't going that way, and I decided that it was going to be about not being silent and how I was going to get there. And I just kept writing. Each line's going to make sense, and I just kept going and going and going, and I got there. And I do that a lot with poetry. Starts off being something, and then I realize, you know what, it's not going to go there. And I can just tell by the lines that I have, and I just think quickly, and I just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. It's going to land somewhere. I may not know where. In this case, I did because it's short, but I do know where the next four or so lines are going. And so I can keep it pushing until something lands, and then I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. And then I can direct myself even more intentionally in that path. And again, that's probably why my poems read the way they read, because I either know where I'm going, so I can just write them the way I always write them, or I think I know where I'm going. And then I get to use this kind of thick head thing to adjust my perception of what I thought I was going to write and just embrace it, because I really don't believe in forcing things. It's okay to let an idea go. I will delete a whole chapter if I have to. And when I say delete, it's not sitting in some other file on my computer just waiting for, I might use it, but it's gone. You know, all of my drafts are in the same file, unless I lose one and I'm not quite sure what's going on, and then I will save the one that I'm working in, and then I'll end up with two drafts, but the newest one is the newest one. But beyond that, I very rarely have multiple drafts of a book either, because they're usually finished drafts. Like, I'll finish it, and then something will go wrong when I'm editing it, and I'll end up being forced, like I just said, to save it as a separate entity, because all the changes are in this one, and I thought they were saving in the other one, or I accidentally open it up as a read only, and then I save it and it says there's already a file with this name, and I'm like, but I'm in this file. And that's how I end up with another file. um, but generally I edit in the same one. There is no first draft, second draft, third draft, fourth draft, final draft. I am editing in the exact same draft every time, because once I delete it, it is gone. I don't want it. So I don't really hold on to things like that. And so it's easy for me to kind of like just think as I go when I'm writing poetry, because I'm absolutely okay with abandoning my idea halfway through. I'm not stopping this train. I'm finishing this poem. And I think this speaks again to Dario as a person, is that he obviously would prefer silence, but the only way to get there is to speak up a little bit. Tell people, you know what, I'm trying to read this book right now, and stop talking to me. I'm doing this, or embracing who he actually is, and deciding not to talk about it. Be like, you know, this is who I am, and I'm not the air, you know, in your face kind of person. But this is me. And it takes him a while to get there. And so I believe that that's why this poem fits, because it really does start off like it's about meditation. But the more the person in this poem thinks about it, and there's invading activity, and life is just pounding against them, they realize that in order to land in the place of peace that they want to be at and in, that they actually do have to speak up every now and then, which is something I definitely don't do. I always choose peace. And so when I do say something, it's always an argument. I don't want to argue, you know. But lives. So that's it for this one. It's interesting. I have mixed emotions about it. I don't know if I like reading it, in all fairness, but I still read it anyway. Yeah, it's definitely on the I don't really know how I feel about this poem shelf, but it fits the story, and that is why it's here. That's all that matters. So again, this was, can't remember, Silence by me, Samuel Alexander, featured in my book Dario, first in the series I See Things in Blue. And if you have made it this far, as per usual, thanks for stopping by.